you need to know that's bulletin board material in every locker room.
Of course, everyone wants that Notre Dame job. Everyone wants to be on NBC in prime time every week of guaranteed games.
Even when you make decisions going into your high school or transferring from your high school, those are big decisions that will affect the rest of your life.
We back with another episode of Keep It a Buck. Sorry for the delay on week 0. We got my boy Just from Zone 6 back in the house, here to help us out. He was all over the state this week. Tristal, the beautiful Tristal, back off vacation. So we're going to kick it right off, man. As everybody know, it was a huge week 0. You know what I'm saying? We had Justin go down to the shore to watch the IMG versus Bergen Catholic game. Tristal was tapped in on all of the streams. You know, I made sure I got into that St. Peter's Paramus Catholic game. That was very important to me. And today we're going to try to bring you a good show, man. So we're going to start off with a shout out to, you know, some of the hometown kids that's on the college level. Jess, who you liked?
Hey, man, I think this guy is probably one of the best backs in the Big Ten for sure.
Ooh, I know who you go with.
Kyle Monungai, man. I think he had the highest rated returning running back to come back to the Big Ten. Rushed it for 160 yards against Howard in a touchdown. So I'm expecting some bigger games as, the season goes along. So shout out to Kyle.
Okay, I'm going to go Schuler. Adon Schuler. He got in the game for Notre Dame. He had a pick. I'm going to Don Schuler, and he had a pick. So shout out to you. This is his freshman redshirt year, right?
Yeah.
So
first time on the field.
First time on the field. That's amazing. Jersey boys, do your thing.
Yeah, big stage. They gave Adon Schuler a lot of credit for being tough. And it was just weird for me, Notre Dame, man. We got to stop being surprised when the Jersey kids show up and they tough and they pan out. Like, this is what happens here. And to the rest of you schools, y'all need to tune in. Like, it's more of him left.
Absolutely.
But for me, I want to focus on the guys that probably didn't have the stats of the Menon guys and the Schulers, but just new faces on the scene that actually got on, because people don't know how hard it is to touch the field as a true freshman in college. So I want to shout out Ysean Willis, better known in the state as Train, Kaj Sanders started,
as a true freshman.
True freshman for Rutgers. I want to shout him out, and Jalen McClain played for Ohio State, and that's huge to get on the field there, because usually they redshirt. That doesn't mean he can't redshirt after 4 games, but we talking about Ohio State. That's best in America when you start talking about DBs. So to me, like that was huge, man. That was huge. Oh yeah, and I want to shout out Smith Vilbert, who's actually a 6-year senior at Penn State, but haven't played a lot of years for personal reasons. He made his debut with Penn State against West Virginia, former St. Joe's state championship defensive end, with the strip sack. Shout out to you. Next, man, go ahead.
Shout out to all the Jersey boys that aren't in college and doing their thing.
Yeah, shout out to Taj Bullock. He played against. So we had some
in the Ohio.
We had some prep kids, lined up against each other as far as
you got
Bonsu at Ohio State. So Taj came from there.
Bonsu, okay.
Yeah, I mean you got Cody Simon part. So
St. Peter's presence.
St. Peter's, in that game for sure. So Jersey well represented in Ohio State's opening game versus Akron for sure. And then you said something about Notre Dame safeties. I want to take this time to shout out my boy Elijah Shoemate, teammate of mine at Don Bosco Prep. Did some great things up there at Notre Dame. So.
Here in the business world, he's carved out a good niche for himself well.
Absolutely.
Too. That's credit to that alumni base. He used it right. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to you, Elijah Shoemate.
Absolutely. All right, so on that note, shout out to all those Jersey boys. We want to try to go into some decisions, like them making those decisions to go to those schools, and even when you make decisions going into your high school or transferring from your high school, those are big decisions that will affect the rest of your life. How do you feel about that?
For me, I think that's very important, right? Like you said, we saw an example. So I'll speak on one. I'm going to speak on a few, but I'll make sure I pass it around. I'm going to speak on one that, is really unique to see paying off right now. So you have like Kaj Sanders, for example. Kaj Sanders is an 18-year-old senior, so he's capable of making a decision for himself. Like, you know, we oftentimes we see parents allow children to make decisions, right? Like what high school you're gonna go to, right? Or I'll let him pick it. He can barely pick an outfit. A child is going to make a decision for the here and now. They don't make decisions for later. That comes when your frontal lobe is fully developed. And in the male, the frontal lobe doesn't develop. People think it's 25, but studies have shown it's 30. Your frontal lobe is what's responsible for your long-term decision making. Meaning, if I do this, these are the repercussions behind this decision, right? So even then when we look at, you know, children, when we start to think about that decision making, this is why they say like youth are dangerous in the streets, right? Because you step on his sneaker, he's not thinking that I'm about to go away for 25 years. He's thinking about you disrespecting him. You know what I'm saying? He's not thinking about the repercussions. So we take the Kai Sanders situation, who's a very smart kid. A lot of people don't know he committed to North Carolina Tar Heels on a ride home from North Carolina. So his father got word of that. His father said, who? I ain't have nothing to do with that. We ain't doing that.
Right.
And his father made him commit to Rutgers, kicking and screaming, right? But now Kai sees why. Because his father had the long-term vision. He said, you can go to South Carolina, son. You can go to North Carolina. You can go to a lot of these other schools where you're going to wait your turn. Rutgers is an opportunity for you to represent your home state and get on the field ASAP. To his father knows it's great to be at Notre Dame. It's great to be at Michigan, South Carolina, SEC, Georgia. Those are great situations to be at. But for what our goals is to put ourselves in position for the league to see us. And that only happens from playing. And the sooner you can get there, the better off we are. And it was beautiful to see his father post a video of Kaj walking down the walkway and he hugging his son, being moved to tears. And I spoke to him after. He said, you know, it felt good because my son said, Dad, I see why you did it now. And a lot of kids can't make that decision. They always come back to say, I see why you did it, you know? So that one to me is one I want to touch on. I have one more as far as when after we spin the mic, you know, I'll go. But just what you see.
No, definitely shout out to Kaj. I mean, at the end of the day, he stepped on the field as a true freshman.
Did his thing.
Right? Had a key block, a pancake block. You usually see pancake blocks from defensive backs, you know, that led to a pick six for them, you know, that gave that team a huge energy boost because it was tight in that game in the first half, you know, versus Howard. They were holding their own, and then eventually Rutgers separated themselves. But I think at the end of the day, when it comes to choosing some of these schools, all right, I think a lot of our kids have the confidence in saying, hey, I'm going to the school not just because of the prestige name, but yes, that does matter. But I truly believe that I've played in one of the most probably competitive leagues in America, right, where I still don't think we get enough respect for. Whereas, like, I'm not committing here just to be like a check-off list. I'm committing because I'm going to play. And they have that confidence. I've played against some of the hardest schedules throughout my high school. I played against some of these guys, right? And at the end of the day, I think they go there with a lot of confidence, and that's why you do see a lot of these guys, you know, have some success at some of these programs, because when they come back here and I see them in the off season, they truly say, high school weight room was like what we doing now. It built me, right? It built me for, you know, for everything, you know, when like, of course we got to wake up 5:30, 5 o'clock. But, you know, those workouts, right, we had some of those, you know, next level workouts where once I got to next level, it was easier, for me. And I think that's what a lot of kids say because, you know, our mindset here, we take football very, very serious especially when it comes to the non-public schools, you know, of prepping. You hear the word prep after some of those schools in their name, even if the word prep is not behind, but those kids are prepared to succeed at the next level. So shout out to all, you know, all the programs that, you know, set up the kids for success once they get to that next level for sure.
Before we go to Tristal, I wanted to talk about that. He talked about the 5:30 workouts, right? And that's the thing when you start talking about recruiting this league that I don't think nationally a lot of people know. Our kids go in ready. Like, it's very little surprises, right? You know, as being a parent of a parochial school kid, you get up at what, 4:30 in the morning?
We wake up at 4:30 and
Okay.
we hit the highway.
Tell me why. Tell us.
Because you have to be in the weight room before 6 o'clock. If you get in the weight room at 6 o'clock and 3 seconds, the doors are locked. You can't get in.
To be on time is to be late.
So therefore, 5:45, we're trying to get there 5:45. Of course, it's a 35 to 45-minute commute depending on the day, and you have to get up there. So that's what it is. So when you were talking, that's exactly what I mean. This preparation. These kids are used to waking up at 4:30, 4 o'clock, getting on the road 4:45, get up that way, and then have to weight room, school, then practice, homework, then go to bed.
And we have coaches that coach at that next level, then come back down. Look at Coach Hoffman, bring it back down, running a college system already in high school. So, you know, just, you know, for those kids to have those resources, you know, only, you know, have them prepare. It's going to have them prepare for the next level for sure.
Absolutely. It's preparation. And what I wanted to add to it is also when you are making a decision as a young man in this league, or even anywhere else, right? There's community. If you don't believe your parents because you're thinking like, oh, this, that, whatever, call Lenny, call Justin, call they're available. Go in the Keep It a Bug DM and say, hey, I want your advice. Go to the people that you can trust and bounce the ideas. Don't just listen to one person because they're going to blow you some smoke, right? You have to compare and make an educated decision. Like, wait, let me listen to this. Let me listen to this. And then go back to your parents if you don't believe that they're directing you in the right decision. And to the parents, you have to go ahead too and reach out. Don't let ego get in the way and say, hey, can you talk to my son? Right? A lot of times we don't do that. We're afraid like, oh, I could talk, especially, no offense, right? Fathers, men, it's a male thing. And now you have a young man. So you might need to reach out to somebody else and say, see if you could get through. Because when kids hear parents, they hear wah, 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 right? But when they hear someone else and you didn't even talk to the parent, oh, wait, my dad just told me the same thing, you know? So that's something that I would say. I think we really need to get a control over taking our children's destinies in our own hands. Like, listen to them. I'm not saying don't listen to them, but give them the pros and cons. Yep. Tell them the reason why. Show them examples. Thank you to Quan for examples now, like Hodge. And other things like going to this league and saying, hey, you can get up at 5:30, you can get there at 5:30 in the morning and go weight room, then go to school, then have to do this, and then have to do this.
That?
You're prepared. Can you do that? It's time management. It's not only about the skill. The skill is just a small part. It's about your mental, it's about your physical, and are you ready? So that's what I would add to it.
I see you had something. Go ahead, man.
I'm good. She was saying some things that we're going to dive into later that I didn't want to forget, so I just had to, you know, some key points.
Another person I wanted to talk about that made a decision for all the right reasons was Ysean Willis. He was committed to go to Pitt.
Oh, yeah.
Fine program down there or whatever. But what he did, you know, and a lot of people don't understand how important it is. I always say, you know, have a good relationship with your position coach, right? He's recruited you, or the head coach, right? Because these are the guys that's going to look out for you and vouch for you, you know, in a big room, right? So Ysean Willis, that was committed to a very good school, he opted to flip to Syracuse. And some people might have questioned why. You know, you got a first-time head coach that came from being a position coach and all that. But that was all the reason. He said, Fran Brown told me he's going to give me the tools to make me a man, right? But why did that register to Ysean? Because Fran Brown already knew the kid. So he knew his strengths and his weaknesses, right? And what you've been allowed to get away with on the football field your whole life that you're not going to get away with here. Furthermore, I'm going to challenge you, right? So we seen yesterday, Ysean Willis on the field getting carries. He had a touchdown. He scored twice that they called back in the same drive, but that's that thing right there. That's when I saw that growth from high school to college, when there was that accountability, right? And he went with a man that this is his show. So your running back coach don't have to like you. The head coach said, that's my guy. And that's another thing we have to know when we start talking about, you know, Kodge's father's reason for choosing Rutgers. You know what I'm saying? Greg Schiano said, I got him. When the head man who controls everything in the building says, I got him, that's the person you could pick up the phone and say, hey, what's going on? I thought you had him. And Greg's going to say, well, come on up here. Let me show you what he's putting out. And this is why I can't play him. Or, oh, he's definitely playing. And then we saw game one, train march out there, Codge march out there, right? We get a lot of our kids that run down south and other places and chase these schools. And it's like, who really asked you to be here? Are you filling in the number, right? Because even we saw that with somebody like Audric Estime, who's now a pro. He decommitted from Michigan State, and at Michigan State, Mel Tucker himself handpicked Audric and went with Notre Dame. And I remember hearing Lance Taylor, which was the running back coach, saying, oh, he can catch. We like, you didn't know that? Like, how you recruit somebody and don't know their skill set? Oh, he got good feet. And at this point, we're like, whoa, the signals is going off.
All he did was over 2,000 yards in 6 games in the first year.
40 yards per per game. So, and it was like he had to take the elevator. He got lucky, right? Because Marcus Freeman, who was the defensive coordinator when Audric was on the scout team his freshman year, the scout team goes against first team defense. He's seen what this kid was doing against his first team defense. So when it became his team, he didn't give him the ball. He gave him an opportunity to truly compete. Because a lot of people don't know in college, a lot of y'all don't get opportunities to really compete.
And that's why they chose, like, Notre Dame players chose their coach. They stood on it, very vocal in the media. We want him, Coach Freeman, to be our coach. So you always hear the term players coach, right? Of course, everyone wants that Notre Dame job. Everyone wants to be on NBC in prime time every week of guaranteed games. So literally, for them to do that, speaks volumes that they're going to get opportunities to play, and whatever you do with your opportunity, is what you do.
That's what you asked for, the opportunity to play, because his freshman year, he didn't get that. It was to the point he was calling home. He was like, yeah, I'm killing. They said be ready. And then you see he don't even get in one snap. And you're like, is he really killing? Like, we started to question it, And then you start to realize the position coaches, they got their guys that they recruited. They sat in his living room and they told, Triskel, hey, I got your son. If you let him come from California, from Oregon to South Bend, I'm responsible for him. They told the head coach at that school, if you send him over here, I promise I'll do right by him. So Justin thinks he's competing. Justin, you're a formality, bro. We already know who we like for this. And a lot of people don't understand this is how college works. So you got to go with the guy that trusts you. I mean, that you trust, right? That that has use for
I
you.
thought he could have played his freshman year.
He could have.
At him and Kyron Williams, who had an unbelievable rookie season last year for the Rams, when Audric had that breakout, senior year, decommitted and everything, I'm like, whoa, this about to be.
But it wasn't.
I thought it was going to be a little thunder, lightning type of, backfield, but they
like who they like.
Yep.
And the thing about that is he got lucky, right? For one, I'm not going to say lucky because he has a work ethic like nobody I ever saw, right? But when they say lucky, you know how people transfer? He actually got the transfer while staying at Notre Dame. Everything changed. He got a new position coach, a new head coach, a new OC. So those are fresh eyes. And they rolled the ball out and said, we're going with the guys who grade out the highest.
Yep.
And that's how he got to play. The old staff, that grade, they didn't care about your grade. We got guys that's getting it done. We're winning. We don't need you to run for more yards because we're winning. We don't, that's what people mistake. Well, my son's better. He can run for more yards. He averaged more per carry. Bro, we winning. We don't care about that. Exactly. So this is why you got to mess with guys like Greg Schiano, like Fran Brown, like Savon Huggins, Nolan. Great choice. Savon, you can trust him. He handpicked you. He's from here. He's your position coach.
My brother said that yesterday. He's like, I love that Nolan's going to Boston College, right? He's going to play it fits him. He's a great student and everything, but he's very coachable, right? He's going to get an opportunity to play at Boston College as a freshman, more than likely. So
that matters.
That's another kid that I'm sure his father and uncle had a lot to do with the decision that he made. Absolutely. They know the game, and they said, okay, here we go. So that's another one. We don't see how that plays out just yet, but I'm sure it's going to play out just like you said.
No brand chasing. He chose a situation, and that's what kids got to know. Choose a situation.
Right. So shout out to Greg Schiano, head coach of Rutgers, and Coach Fran
Brown,
from
first
Syracuse.
W.
Absolutely. But I want to kind of flip it away we were supposed to go because we are talking about the coaches. So let's kind of talk about the recruitment and how they're recruiting the South and how they're recruiting the North. Now that we are talking about the coaches and we're saying we're giving you your accolades, now let's talk about it.
I'll kick it off and
Yeah.
y'all can feed that. So for me, and I've been on the record of saying, I think Northeast colleges are very lazy. Lazy in the sense of not doing their own scouting, not combing the pavement to get relationship with the kids or to even talk to kids. Because what you'll find, Justin, you know, because you do events, right? How many times have you heard another kid tell you about a kid that's really a dog that you ain't know, right?
Yep.
He's not a headliner state, but all of the kids know, right? So what you see up here up north is they're waiting for this one to offer you before I can offer you, which means you haven't even done your, like, do you trust your eyes?
Right.
Do you do your own work? When you look at the South, those schools down south, and I'm not even talking about the SEC schools. I'm talking about even like the Western Kentuckys, what's the school in North Carolina that always upsetting somebody? It's like
Coastal?
not Coastal, Western. No, it's not Western Carolina. They beat Michigan years ago.
Appalachian State.
Appalachian States, right? These guys are going to get kids that's not headliner kids, right? So you look like, and I'll bring it back to this. Everybody saw Nate Bailey yesterday against a nationally ranked team where every kid on that team is a Power 5 commit and or recruit. And they all check the boxes. And Nate Bailey made them look the same way he make the local kids look. No different, right?
A good college coach would have called Nate Bailey today,
Yes.
not Monday.
Yes.
So
Last night.
today,
Yeah.
last night.
You talking about like
Giving them benefit of doubt because some
night.
people play Saturday college football, right? And you talk about some coaches being lazy, right? I see go to a national game Thursday night, right? Go to some good football on Friday night. I didn't see one college coach because they got millions of dollars, all this stuff coming in. Hey, fire up the private jet, whatever. Because coaches are
Is it
supposed.
open season now?
I don't know if it's open season or if something restricted them for this week, but
Yeah, that's right.
if they weren't restricted, then I say that's terrible, really, for this week because all college coaches are supposed to be out recruiting the night before the game. Like you literally fly private, you know. We in North Jersey, so we got Teterboro right there for you, where you could fly right in and you fly back out and meet with the team for the next day for your game day.
Right.
But hopefully this week we see a lot of college coaches on the sidelines at some of these games because it must have been.
You see the
Yeah,
goosebumps?
it must have been. It must have been a
Let me
death
click, man.
period.
It must be the goosebumps.
Absolutely.
Because my thing is like I'm not even so much even coming at like the Rutgers, right? That's local. Syracuse, I know for a fact their coaching staff is they are challenged with every meeting. They have to come with the name I think of 20 kids. 20 kids every meeting. And it's like, is there even that much after? So that just tells you how much I want to know everything that's out there, right? But I'm talking more so the Monmouths, the Stony Brooks, the Albanese. I'm talking about like the smaller schools in the Northeast, the Richmonds, the different schools like that. Because, again, I'll use Nate, right? And then I'll use Peyton Zachary down at Carrollton in Georgia. Peyton Zachary has Tennessee. He has Auburn.
Georgia.
They got the same measurements and essentially the same game. Same game. He got SEC schools, right? But then you'll go to Tim Lester, the running back, TJ Lester. He's the running back for Milton. He's going to Western Kentucky. His measurements, 5'8", 5'9", 190. No crazy speed that blows you out. He's a really good running back, right? Things that we see up here all the time, like you saw in Ryan Butler, Saeed St. Fleur, like guys like that, right? Even Xavier Williams. Right? This is a kid that averages 10 yards per carry. And those kids struggle to get recruited up here, right? And then we wonder why, like, when the kids do blow, they go south. They go away, right? Because it's just like the relationships ain't there. UConn is not, by any means, let me choose my words. UConn is not dominant. Why isn't UConn recruiting this area, right? Why isn't UConn coming in here and taking, those type of kids, right? Because the record has shown every time we keep saying, oh, this one's been a pleasant surprise. Kyle Monungai had no Power 5 offers.
At all.
Right? No Power 5 offers. He was a consolation prize to Jalen Berger for Rutgers. Right? And he's leading the Big Ten in rushing yards.
Yep.
And we're talking about he didn't have Monmouth. You get what I'm saying? And it's like, don't people start to look around and see like, hold on, let me go pull back the rug up there in Jersey, because as we stated, these kids come in physically ready because of the weight programs they're on. They're up 5 in the morning already for workouts. It's very little turnover in the transition from our program to theirs. You get what I'm saying? I don't have to sit him around and wait. He knows how to learn a playbook really fast. They spend 8 hours at practice like they do here. Like those kids go up there in the summers, and they go up there what time in the morning?
Yeah, 5:30, 6 o'clock.
What time did they come home?
8, 9 o'clock.
8, 9 o'clock at night. So this is why Ordric and a Don, a Kaj, they come in and they're ready trained, they're ready to go. That doesn't stop there. That continues for guys like you got Dante Kane over there at Bergen. You have Xavier Williams over at Paramus Catholic. You have, even when we start talking about like Joe's, they got a receiver course that's the best in the state. I'm sorry, let's call it like it is. And they're all not recruited at that level, DePaul has done some good things for there, which is an ill receiver course as well. But we start talking about like, where are the Villanovas? Where are UConn? Where is UConn? Where is Monmouth? Where is Stony? But where's Albany? Where is these schools? Because those are the kids that's going to make you contenders, because they fell through the cracks of Power 5. Imagine Kyle Monungai at Monmouth.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right. And you could have did that. So, and I had a conversation with a college coach, and I might have mentioned this last year, but I'm going to mention it again. And I asked why is this happening? Why do we have to check the boxes, and why do they not? And he specifically said that if you do it here with a North kid and it doesn't pan out, your head is on the chopping block. But if you do it with a kid from the South, it's not. It's just like, oh, okay, well, you got it wrong. So I challenge the college coaches to put your head on the chopping block. Sorry, I know that might sound crazy, but it shows you got the carbon on guys. I don't care what you say. Anybody that gets Nate Belly is going to get something amazing. So get it done.
You don't have to check off.
You don't.
Like, if I'm in their position, and of course I'm not, but if I was, I wouldn't be pass the eye test type of coach. I like what Dion does with Travis Hunter with the letter D. I'm looking for dogs, right?
Right.
At the end of the day, right? Nate Belly is a dog,
Absolutely.
right?
Kyle is a dog. Aldrich was a dog. Don is a dog.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, dogs.
What are we doing?
Got
Kobe Simon is a dog.
Right. Yeah. So, and they're already prepared, like you said. They're prepared. They have the consistency. They have perseverance. They're mentally ready. So you shouldn't just say, oh, okay, I'm gonna go down the South and go get the same kid. Not saying that they shouldn't be recruited, but give the North the same respect.
I think it's up to Northern schools to do that for Northern schools. You can't expect Southern schools to come up here to do that for us, right?
Right.
UConn, the schools I'm naming need to do that. You got it, Just.
Yeah, and we got to have these conversations to put pressure on them and bring these type of situations into the light, right? Where, you see Nate had almost a 3-touchdown game yesterday, and he's going against guys that's going Power 5, SEC, AC, wherever they really want to go. So those kids at St. Francis, for the most part, could go wherever they want. They have 20 to 30 offers like it's nothing, right? You see him doing against that competition, right? For guys that are defensive backs, right, for the most part, you're going to see a lot of their agility and everything right now, their athleticism at, some of their top levels right now. I think linemen are usually the position where you take a little longer to develop, coach them up, right? But if he's doing that against guys, that are freak athletes right now, right, there's no reason, like you said, Stony Brook, UMass, UConn. I think since UConn hasn't been here since Jarvis, right? Right. You look at, thank God UMass came and grabbed someone like Kenyon Massey, who didn't check off all the boxes to most coaches. But I think for sure, right, since Kenyon, he's only been out of high school for a year, right?
Not even a couple of months.
Couple months, right? Where you talk about, I think he was one of the best receivers as far as getting open, getting separation. Nate's one of those guys where it doesn't matter if he's on the outside, it doesn't matter if he's on the inside. He's going to get separation. He's going to catch the ball, right? And then at the end of the day, he's going to put his team in a situation where he gives them a chance to win. And he gave them a chance to win, right? Where people saw St. Joe's as the underdog in a big, national game versus number 14, St. Francis, right? And this is only week 0, right? So now these coaches, like I said, whenever that period happens, they need to be out there, right? They need to be making relationships with whoever, right? Whether it's, talking to Keep It a Buck, talking to Zone 6, just, trying to figure out, hey, what's the situation with this kid, right? There's nothing that restricts them from calling us.
Right.
You ain't got to talk to them. You don't got to talk to the parents and the kids all the time, whatever. But you got to have those credible relationships, right? Where we're not going to just try to put a kid somewhere where he's not going to be able to be successful. We're going to put our name on the chopping block to make it happen. Speaking
of that, right? We actually went through that this summer. There was a kid that showed out in one of your tournaments, and we got on the staff with a Power 5. We got on the phone with a Power 5 coach. I called you on the conference call. You probably know what you was doing, and I asked you about a kid. The kid is from St. Thomas Aquinas, the wide receiver.
Yep.
And you're like, yo, he showed out. He's got all of the measurements. He checked, no offers. And immediately, this kid is on the recruiting radar, right? And he's going to ball out if everything checks out. I don't know the kid's academic profile. I don't know his personality. I don't know those things. But this is the thing we're talking about.
Now, those relationships matter because my dad, he's not coaching right now, but he coached 30 years in high school football, sent numerous of kids to Rutgers, and soon as Coach Ysean, right, got back to Rutgers, right, I said, you need to talk to him, right? Brown, Princeton, great schools, Ivy League, right? But Kyle doesn't belong here at all, right? So, and when we started, the platform and everything, right? John Ray Collins, because they saw he checked those boxes, right? So then it's like, now go back to the film, right? And watch Kyle, right? Go back to the stats and watch the production based off of the amount of carries, right? Where he came out of high school very fresh and made a lot of plays off of, a few touches. I'm not saying a few like it's 4 or 5, but you talk about a backfield with, All-American Jalen Berger, who had to get the ball at least 20 times, and he deserved it, right? But I thought Kyle, at the end of the day, he had that it factor where it's like, this kid is going to make it happen, just like you see someone like Aaron Donald who don't fit the measurables where you're going to be rated
at Notre Dame.
A 2-star coming out because he's short in the D-line term. His arms are not long enough, right? And now he's a Super Bowl champ that got to retire after a 10-year career where he basically went all pro almost every single year in his career.
Absolutely.
So come over to Jersey. We got
more. What Club of Lane said, Rocky? We got a lot of more.
And for those schools of that sort, Jersey is a great place to come because now you're going to be able to work your way up to a lot of those coaches aspire to go to those big Power 5 schools. This is how you build your credibility of grabbing diamonds in a rough. That's what someone at the top level want to see at the end of the day. Like, hey man, this guy just got a nit. When they always say with college coaches, like a Fran Brown,
right?
That's what I said.
He's a recruiting guru,
right? He said,
right? You can be a recruiting guru at a Stony Brook, at a Monmouth, right? That's just it's a stepping stone to get into where you want to go. So, I mean, if you have that mindset, we got some gems for you here in Jersey for sure.
Come get them. All right. Well, that was great. Now, moving right along, we hope to hear from you.
Yeah.
Let's talk about week 0. Week 0. So most of the non-publics played this week.
Yep.
And where we want to start? Let's start with who played first. Seton Hall versus Union. Let's go there. So Seton Hall versus Union was 34-0, with Union winning. Did anybody get a chance to chime in and watch that game a little bit?
No, I'm not surprised. I'm not shocked. Right? You talk about Union lost their best, player to Don Bosco.
Don Bosco.
Shout out to Rutgers for going to get him.
Absolutely.
Another kid that wasn't on everybody.
Right, yeah.
And at the end of the day, I think the gaps is there with the public and the non-public, and that's why I say that I'm not surprised, right? But I think you will. I think out of all the games this year, there will be one tighter, closer. I think St. Peter's and Union City, out of if there's any matchup, I think, on the schedule this year, as far as a public playing and non-public, I think that one is going to be the closest one, because Union City is always up there with like a PCTI who's knocking at the door to win a Group 5, state championship. So they're used to winning. And when you have a winning program and a winning mentality, right, you don't really step down, to anyone at the end of the day. But I think that game is going to be closer. But as far as surprise from the Union Seton Hall, I believe that's what they're supposed to do at the end of the day. So no surprise on that game.
Okay. So moving right along, let's go to DePaul and Pope John. The score was 47-15 with DePaul taking the win.
Personally, you can put me on the record for saying this. Actually, I said it last year. Last year, I said, DePaul, this is not their year. This is Red Big's year. Next year is DePaul's year. Well, this is next year. And I'm going to tell you, with the roster they have, and everybody will point to, you got the 2 Ohio State commits in Dez and Sean. You got the Boston College commit in Nolan. You got the Penn State commit in
Mike
Troutman. You have the Notre Dame commit and Elijah Burris. And I'm forgetting one.
Marquette Dorsey.
And you got the Northwestern commit in Marquette Dorsey.
And he comes to the field this week. He's eligible
this week, yes.
This week, because he set out his games last year. So if anyone, try to bring it up this week, how he gets to play, why he doesn't have to sit out, he sat out last year. So I know some people are going to be like, oh, how you get to play? They're cheating. No, they're not.
He was smart about it.
Yeah, he was smart. So his parents and everyone, shout out to them for seeing the future to make, for him to make a debut versus a top 40 team in the country with good counsel. So he's eligible to play this week.
Yeah, so we all know those names, right? But then, like I like to point out, they got a lot of really good high school football players, right? Like guys that's probably not going to go Power 5, but they are really good high school football players.
Natoli at the linebacker position.
They got Cardi, he's out. Cardi at Kennedy, I believe.
Yep, Kennedy. Yep.
Yeah, he's out there. Yaya is at the linebacker.
He's coming right. He is highly recruited, but you can't forget Marlon Bright.
Yeah, but I didn't even get into it.
Yaya comes back.
He's a senior. Okay. No, Cardi's not a senior though. But
Yaya's coming back this week. He's a captain for them. He was named a captain. So
I say all of that to say, DePaul ain't got no business losing to nobody. I'm calling it just like that. They don't got no business losing. Now this is the Big North. This is the Super Conference, right? And things that ain't supposed to happen happens. Like we watched a 2 or 3 win team Bosco go be the undefeated Bergen one year, right? True. So this is that league, right? And I remember speaking to you earlier. You trying to put together an ESPN game, and it didn't make sense to them. They're like, well, this school has this much Division 1 and this one doesn't. And you're like, whoa, let me tell you something about this state, right? Like, throw the records out. Everybody know each other. Everybody play. Yep. So this is what this is, right? So I do understand they can be tripped up. But what I'm saying is definitely they're going to win their group in the state championship.
And it's a new group in though too.
Yeah?
Yeah, so last week, going into week 0 on Monday, Paramus Catholic is going to be in non-public B. Right.
So they will have to. DePaul will have to see them to win the chip.
They could play them. Pope John is in non-public.
No, stop, John. Are you telling me? No, not the league, right? Because the league sometimes
not the red division
championship. Route goes through Paramus Catholic.
Paramus Catholic will be in non-public B. They won't have to compete against Bergen Catholic, Don Bosco Prep.
So DePaul could have to play them to go to state champion.
Yeah.
Oh, this got good.
I like this.
I like you got St. Thomas Aquinas that's in there too. Like
that's competitive.
Yeah.
That's it makes sense, right?
It does make sense.
It was a realignment, right? And I think at the end of the day, you see Paramus Catholic in non-public B. I think it just made the playoff scenario even better. I mean, at the end of the day, That's the fun part. Thank you to the state of New Jersey for doing that.
Yeah.
I think of course, my only complaint this year is that
Bergen and
DePaul, and I think that's
they
most
definitely
because of as far as the scenario of, who's going to be one when it's all said and done with, because, some polls DePaul is 2. And that's big for DePaul because they're a non-public B, ranked number 2. I know I forgot who, NJ.com, I believe, had them at number 5. No, sorry, not number 5. No, North Jersey, Varsity Aces, the record had them at number 5. If I'm not mistaken, NJ.com had them at number 2. Mm-hmm. Right, and I think, like some people like to show love to the public schools like in Millville, and then they just let the scenarios play out, right, at the end of the day. But I think, it's going to be a very, very fun postseason once we get into, end of beginning of November, end of October. So it's definitely going to be a good one. But the Paul, going back to it, the Paul game, it was very close at the beginning. I told you they had a legal formation with around a minute 50 left that could have put them up 14-6.
Recap, Josh. You starting in the middle. Get the people to lay out. Let's go.
Hey man, so kick off the game. Pope John came out firing away. They was driving the ball and everything, and I'm looking like, oh, they got DePaul on their heels, right? Didn't get a score, at the beginning, but DePaul got to come back down. Elijah Burris, with a huge touchdown. Mm-hmm. They missed the extra point, right? Then Pope John gets the ball back, drives down, and Wes Johnson, great receiver, going to Army.
Shout out,
right?
Wes.
Had a one-hand catch. I don't know if that was the first or second drive, but they did drive, and they scored. They went up 7-6, and then with a minute 50 left in before the half, they were driving again. You see, running back Tyleek Hill had about a 40-yard run that got called back for illegal formation. All right, turns into turnovers on that drive.
And he scored on that run, right?
He scored on the run, illegal formation. So this is something that you could prevent. So that's not about X's and O's and who blocked who, because if it was just lined up the right way, the touchdown would have happened. All right, so whoever wasn't onside or eligible, cool, it didn't happen. Touchdown came back. DePaul scored with a minute 50. Nolan James scored, and now they're up 12-7 at halftime. But third quarter, long story short, what I was expecting to see from a DePaul offense this season, not saying like just in one quarter this year, an explosive offense with all the weapons that we just went over, where I believe they had 21 to 28 points in that third quarter, and they just separated themselves. And then, fourth quarter, some of the, younger guys got to come into the game, but they just completely separated. But that huge illegal formation, could have put them in a scenario to be up 14-6 or 14-12 or 13, depending on if they made an extra point or go for 2. But I think that game could have been tighter. But DePaul Catholic is definitely a team forced to be reckoned with, and we'll see how good that team is this week versus a national opponent. And I think this is like their only national game on their schedule this week, so definitely interested.
Yeah, good counsel. Definitely a tough team, well-coached team. Is that in Maryland?
No, it's actually at DePaul.
Oh, hey, lucky for them.
So
that's a good council.
Yes.
To play there, this is a tough place to play.
Yeah, and Good Counsel has held their own versus Jersey, and their last 2 versus St. Joe's back to
3.
3?
Mm-hmm. Was it 3?
I know 2.
You know 2?
They played
because if it's 2, then it's 3. Because they played at the park the park overpack.
So that was 3 years ago, but it was a 2-year home and away situation.
No, so you had the overpack one,
and then
twice under your regime, right?
Twice. Oh, well, that was freshman year. So yeah,
Okay,
they went down. They went down to Good Counsel,
and then sophomore year.
And Good Counsel, a very athletic bunch, and they have the number 2 safety in most polls, Fahim Delane. That's going to Ohio State, so you get to see the Ohio State.
Yeah, that's gonna be nice.
So I think it's perfect where you're not going to see him following Dez or anything. He's a safety. He's going to be over top because you can't just
Oh, and I'm gonna tell you,
You do that.
he bring it. He hit. He hits.
And
Like,
they-
keep your head on a swivel.
And they're coming off of a huge win on the road down in Miami. They play a tough Columbus team. So they're starting their season off, 2 road games. They're on a little tour, before going back to Maryland. But I think for sure it's going to be a very, very, competitive game for sure.
Absolutely. All right, great. So we'll run that back when we talk about next week's games. So then we have Bosco versus Archbishop Hoban.
Hoping.
Okay, and so that was 21-7. So Bosco went to Ohio and took the L to Archbishop Hoban. And did anybody get to? I didn't get to watch that.
What we're seeing in the theme with Bosco is Bosco. I always say every year they're gonna get better game by game.
Yeah.
Dan Sabella is a hell of a coach. The problem is, if we're just gonna call it real, the offense is anemic. The offense is anemic. It's been anemic preseason, things like that. So that's where they're struggling right now, and they'll figure it out. I mean, they better figure it out because
All right, so moving right along, let's go PC Prep.
for me, so just chose to go down.
Sorry, 47-40 versus 48, and PC pulled it out.
What was the score?
47-48.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
and PC won.
Just chose to go down to the DePaul and Pope John game. Me, I decided to, check in on this PC St. Peter's game. And that game, it was very interesting to me because of the struggles both teams had last year. And here it is, we kicking the season off where you both got an opportunity to get off on the right foot against each other, right? So I just felt like both teams was going to claw tooth and nail to not feel the feeling that they had last year, to breathe life into their locker room, to say this year is really different, So for me, like most people go, well, you want to watch that, St. Peter's is young, PC, they haven't won a game in New Jersey Super Conference League since 2022, and I'm like, well, both of those teams have talent, again, when you know the state, you know the kids know each other. Both of those teams are talented, and both of those teams are basically saying the same thing preseason. The team has a different chemistry. There's no me guys. This is what you hear coming out of both locker rooms. So I'm like, well, let me look in and see what's really good. I wanted to see if the quarterback from St. Peter's Prep, Tyler Bell took the next step. I wanted to see what I felt like had an opportunity to be the best running back duel in North Jersey with Achilles DuPont and Xavier Williams, because quietly, Xavier Williams averaged 10 yards a carry last year. And he wasn't called on to be, a bell cow like that. But you can see that nobody really had an answer for him much last year.
And St. Peter's, lost Speedy, so to see a new back in the prep.
And that kid actually played. Barksdale played a lot last year as well. So for me, I wanted to see that running back tandem, right? Because you have Dante Kane and the gentleman that just transferred out of Bergen Catholic, Najee Calhoun at Bergen, right? That's another backfield I'm looking on as the best backfield in North Jersey, right? And I want people to be clear, when I say best receiver corps, best backfield, I'm not talking about they got the best back or the best wide receiver. I'm talking about top to bottom,
where everyone could contribute to a winning to wins.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I want to send well wishes to Achilles DuPont, who seemed to have separated his foot or his ankle or something like that in that game. Tough break. But so let me get to it. What I saw Paramus Catholic come right out. Xavier Williams, there was no answer for him right off the rip. He brought them all the way down the field, eventually breaking off, I think, a 50-yard run to start the scoring. And then I watched St. Peter's come out, and the offensive coordinator, shout out to you, he was dialing it up. Tyler looked like he took the next step. Hunter Watson introduced himself to New Jersey as I'm a guy you guys need to be concerned about. Jordan Rodriguez, and I'm trying to stop because I don't like to be a prisoner of the moment, right? But I've been watching this kid since last year, and his physicality, his size, he played the strong safety, I believe. He was traveling a lot.
Swiss Army knife.
He's a headhunter. He's a headhunter. He's a big physical kid. He was covering. He was making sure that, Paramus Catholic knew he was out there. And the game was tick for tack, and then eventually St. Peter's pulled away, and I thought they put it away. I believe it was 34,
19.
and then it became Xavier Williams' time. Xavier Williams went berserk.
He had
defensively
30 carries.
and offensively.
Yes, 30 carries with 252 yards and 2 touchdowns.
And I'm going to tell you the game was a game down to the very last second, 47-48. Last year it was a 1-point game, I believe, right?
Yeah.
That, man, hell of a game to both teams.
That was an amazing game to watch.
I think both teams will do significantly better than they've done in the past. I do not see St. Peter's going 1-9 this year. And I don't see Paramus Catholic only winning 3 games, especially now that you just told me what you told me, because people have said, well, just because they drop down don't mean they're going to go and win it all. Well, let me bring some things to a lot of you attention. DePaul has struggled to win in Group 4 games in past years and went on to win championships.
2 years ago,
and the blow right through.
Started 1-4 during Dez's sophomore year. Zamet comes back in to become a starter as a freshman, right? But they started off 1-4 and win the group non-public, B championship. Pretty impressive. But Paramus Catholic will, once they get to that playoffs,
yes, I'm excited.
And the confidence level.
Look at these cool
Once you told us that changes everything. I had to write down some things because that changes everything.
Because like we say, and before we get into the last game, things are going to slow down. You're playing those, non-public A games when you got to play the Bergen Catholics, right? You're going to, everything is just going to slow down, and your confidence is just going to be at another level. So,
yo, listen, and we getting ahead of ourselves because we like to do that in the matchup, but
they have a big game, by the way. I didn't want to forget they have a big game, which could be maybe a playoff sneak peek. They play Bergen Catholic on their schedule, which is a team that won a non-public beat last year. So I think that's a game to circle.
So you got St. Thomas. Now you got Red Bank. PC, DePaul. See, it's getting interesting now.
Right.
Now I get to see. This is the beautiful thing. Yeah. Because these are the 2 of the top backs in North Jersey, if not the state, in my opinion. I'm not saying 1 and 2, but 2 of the top backs. Xavier Williams and Nolan on the other side. That's almost like when we got to see Speedy and Nolan. Like, I love to see those matchups, right? And it's like, and they got the same skill set, same physical build. Like, this is beautiful now, right? Because I called DePaul the champion last year. Well, hold on. Let me see what the Paladins got to say about that. Let me see what St. Thomas, what Red Bank. That's before it's always just Red Bank.
Right, and DePaul.
I thought DePaul was going to win it as well last year. I'm like, talk about a quarterback that comes in as a freshman, win a state championship. You building this roster and team, but like you said, can't take these games for granted. These kids don't, as we talked about, these kids don't feed into the hype of whatever we're saying, whatever the record is saying, right?
Recruitment is saying,
and this is why they look at it like this is why we play the game at the end of the day. So it's going to be a fun season for sure. But I still do have, on record, I do have DePaul Catholic.
I'm with you.
Favorite.
We're going to get there. Wait, don't say it yet. So, next, let's go. And I'm only going to go this one next because it was the first one. So, let's go Bergen versus IMG. So, they played on Thursday night in Ocean.
Yeah, it was a cold game. Back end of August.
Like, what is this?
I came down here with a T-shirt on.
You was cold? Them Florida boys was freezing, bro.
If you was cold. What hit them if you were cold.
They definitely, it was definitely a hoodie season. I was getting ready to go to the boardwalk and go grab a sweatshirt. Great atmosphere down there. Shout out to Battle at the beach. Yeah. All right. They actually had, a couple people, in the house as far as like Bill Belichick was there watching the game. The kids loved the kid AJ Green on social media. So, I think about 4,000 people came to that game, even though they had games all day. But getting to the game per se, right, that first half, right, and I don't want to forget, that Bergen Catholic defense is a force to be reckoned with. I think on the record right now, I think Bergen Catholic's defense might be the best defense, in the state. And
it's been for 4 years.
Yeah, and it's not a surprise, like me saying like they're a dark horse, but they proved to me that this defense, is definitely without a doubt more than likely the best defense in the state, and they're not going to give up a lot of points this season. But to get into the game, went into the half, 7-0 IMG. Only thing, my big takeaway from Bergen in the first half, they had a couple trips getting past the 50 into IMG territory where they found themselves in some fourth and mid or fourth and long situations where they just weren't able to, capitalize on, on some of the drives that they put together. But the defense set them up, right, with a lot of the wind. And like I said, it was cold, right? Special teams on both ends were not really flipping the field. Like I said, that ocean is literally half a block behind the stadium and the wind is pushing through. Bergen almost had a chance to make a 57-yard field goal. They hit the bottom crossbar. Shout out to I don't know his name, but the young man from Bergen Catholic, where I'm pretty sure he's going to go on to do some special things. But he hit the bottom crossbar. When I hear a 57-yard attempt, I'm like, of course you hear it say, no way, that's NFL, range. But just missed the crossbar. But Bergen came out second half with a spark. And Mr. Number 1 in the state, Quincy Porter, Mr. All Everything, Max Press Player of the Year, made a play that gave Bergen a shot to get back in the game. And they got back in the game, become 7-7, where he had a 90-yard screen play, finished the run off like at the 25-yard line with a mean stiff arm. Definitely probably going to be nominated for one of the top plays of the year for sure. But he showed he got a lot of targets, right? That game, they were very aggressive. Probably had about 8 catches, definitely went over 100 yards. I think for Bergen Catholic, of getting the run, they like to run the ball. I think in the passing game early, it would have been nice to see some of the other receivers, get involved. And that's why we talk about who are the better receiver cores, because we didn't say that, yes, is Bergen Catholic the best team in state Jersey? Yes, right? But did we say that they had the best receiver core? No. But I think if they could get some more people involved into their passing game, because now I think moving forward into the season, those linemen are going to move people out the way like it's nothing. Their run game is going to be very dominant. But I think once they could get more people involved in the passing game, they become a very, very, special team. And then as far as, going throughout that game, right, the quarterback from IMG, he had a day. He had 4 touchdowns. He counted for over 250 yards, I believe. Used his legs. That next drive after Quincy scored, they responded, right? With Bergen's only big play that they gave up, right? The whole game, I think it was around a 40-something yard run, right? They responded, went up 14-7, and then they started, to pull away during the fourth quarter. Bergen, had another drive.
2 big plays. So was that the quarterback run, and then you had the freshman wide receiver that came across the middle, caught the ball, and just bounced on everyone?
Oh, yeah. So 2 big plays, in the second half. But then, fourth quarter, Bergen kept competing, closed it within, 2.
Jersey tough, man.
Yeah, they kept playing. I mean, at the end of the day, Vito's going to have those guys playing hard for 48 minutes no matter what the situation is. That's just a culture that they have in that program now after all the success that they've had as a program. But, were they the underdogs? Absolutely, right? IMG's D-line, unbelievable, right? Unbelievable. They, forced the quarterback. They forced Dom out of the pocket to try to make some very tough throws, during that game. And the fact that he wasn't able to stay in that pocket, right, put the game in their favor to, come out, and put, Bergen in situations where they have to punt the ball away or turn over the ball on down. So, I think for sure things, like I said, are only going to slow down for Bergen Catholic because they won't see another team like that all year. No matter if it's a state championship, no knock to none of the other programs, right? I think IMG is just that next level. They were ranked number 10 in the country. But I think at the end of the day, Bergen took a game that they thought they could win. I think a lot of the buzz coming into the game we hear around the stadium, like, I got Bergen Catholic. I think they can actually pull this off. They had a shot to win. Like I said, at one point in the third quarter, it was 7-7. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, I think that that D line was a force to be reckoned with from IMG.
Okay. Anything to add about that?
Shit, I couldn't even say it any better.
Right.
My only thing that I would say is that, so I think IMG did a few things, and I don't know if it was intentional or not, but what I noticed during the game is Bergen's quarterback, Dominic Campanelli, is left-handed, and he was rolling right a lot. And with those big, fast linemen, D linemen on your butt like that, it's hard to set. You can't set. So that's why we saw a lot of awkward looking passes because you need to set, and he couldn't set. So I don't know if they just sent pressure from the opposite direction to force him out, rolling right, so he have to throw left because he wasn't his typical self that day. He's usually like very reliable. But Bergen football was being played at a clip of like, I was blown away of how their front line was pushing around IMG when they were going with the pin and pull with Najee Calhoun. That kid was getting 6 and 7 yards a clip. Now, I don't know what he can handle, what his load is, but personally for me, I think that Bergen at some point should have done that and just say, hey, listen, Calhoun, get back there. Guys, strap up, because this is what we do. They did it with Kaj last year against St. Joe's. Down the fourth quarter to seal it, where it's just like, yo, you know where we're coming, you know what we're doing. Stop it. Make me have to figure something out.
Yeah, and IMG's O-line as well, I'm going to give them credit as well, because like I said, without a successful quarterback can't have a great day without an O-line. So I know I gave a lot of praise to the D-line, right? And I'm pretty sure everyone's seen that viral video of their offensive line stating their offers going from 6'4", their heights to and sizes from 6'4" all the way to 6'7", where that line eventually they wore down, Bergen's defense. But at the end of the day, I still saw a lot of great things from that Bergen Catholic defense.
Absolutely. All right, so moving right along to St. Joe's versus St. Francis. So I want to say that Bergen game ended up in 27-14. So going right along to St. Joe's versus St. Francis.
What might have been the best game,
Definitely.
I want to add context to the Bergen game too, right? Like, people have to understand who they played, and they were outgunned. So to play that's like, well, if people look at that, they was like, oh, Bergen got blown out. They absolutely didn't. When you see what IMG is going to do to the rest of the team, then you'll understand what Bergen did. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? So I agree with you when I said that defense came to play, that offense came to play. What I definitely think that everybody needs to know is whether it's IMG or St. Francis, they left here happy to get on that bus. Happy to get on that bus with a W. They pulled up thinking it was just a typical business day, and they left and like, we made it. Right. We made it out of there.
I said while watching the game, like, IMG doesn't look like IMG, but I was corrected. Like, no, Bergen made them not look like IMG. And shout out to you guys for doing that. Keep doing what you're doing.
And Massillon, they better get ready because Bergen, Vito's going to have those guys ready.
Oh, yeah, and they got a chip on their shoulder.
And it's the beginning of the season, and everyone wants to get into that win column at the end of the day. So I know they're going to another showcase, but I think, I do like, Bergen this week to, come out with some spark, and make their presence known.
All right, we'll go with some takes when we go to next week. Now going on to St. Joe's versus St. Francis.
For me, I mean, I'm gonna try not to go too far into it because we're winding down on time. But for me, I had the press pass, so I'm on the field, and I'm thinking I'm about to be out there to get some footage. And when I saw the size of St. Francis, that first possession, and how fast and big those kids was getting off the line, I said, today is an opportunity I don't usually get. I need to take this in. I need to watch this. And I had the luxury of sitting on St. Francis sideline, so I get to hear the pregame attitude and the postgame attitude. But man, like when we start talking about size, I went on and I looked, right? Their smallest lineman is 6'5". Their lightest lineman is 305. And their smallest linebacker is 220. 6'2", 220 is the average size. The number 1 DN in the country in the 26 class. Number 2, sorry. Number 9, and he was everything. So I was just like blown away. And the way that game kicked off, they kick it off. Nate Bailey receives it. He runs, and it looks like he just got swallowed. Okay. All right, let's settle in. This is Jersey tough. And the next 3 plays, the way St. Francis was on St. Joe's, if St. Francis just slowed down some, they probably would have allowed the running back or the quarterback to run their way back to a safety. But they were so fast, Joe's couldn't run backwards. I'm like, whoa, what is this? And it was It was fast. And I'm like, yo. And then Joe's punts. And St. Francis comes out right down the field, 7 points. I'm looking like, if somebody got me blocked in, because I might want to go watch this on my stream so I can watch the Penn State, West Virginia game while I'm double doing it, because this is over. And the vibe I was getting on St. Francis sideline was the same. Yo, is the bus driver still in there? Make sure he keep the bus rolling, man. We got places to be. Get him out of here. We got to get down the aisle. That was the attitude. And then Joe's offense came out, and they went under center. Something I haven't seen. I don't see that too much anymore. And they just marched 90 yards down the field methodically and scored. I'm like, whoa. And then their defense came out with a totally different attitude. And before you know it, I'm looking at, they don't have an answer for Nate Bailey. And Joe's is exploiting that. And everybody is just like, it was like the Bergen feeling all over again, where it was just like, oh, they could have curled. They could have folded. And they here. And I started watching, and I was telling people, it was kind of like, if anybody knows the movie Rocky, when Rocky went to Russia to fight Drago after Drago killed Apollo, in front of his face. And the way the fight jumps off, Drago just jumped on him. First 30 seconds, knocked him down 3 times. Rocky, eyes swollen, from out in the first round, everything. And then as the fight went on, Rocky gets a punch. And the Russian sees his blood, and he starts to, I might be in a fight. But he goes back into whipping on Rocky. And then as the 7th and 8th round roll, he realized, this dude is not going anywhere.
For the young kids, they probably reference the first Creed, almost like how they...
Creed, yeah.
For the young kids,
and then you start to notice the crowd goes from warming up the bus to, y'all keep y'all heads in this. Y'all can win this. This is going into the fourth quarter. Y'all can still win this. Like, y'all got to fight. And I'm like, whoa.
Because it's 21-17 at this point.
Yeah, I'm like, whoa. So Joe's is marching. Nate Bailey catches a one-hand touchdown that gets called out. And I'm watching, and I'm saying at this point, if they connected on that, this ball game is pretty much over, because what eventually happened that I had the luxury of sitting in here is when St. Francis, there was a broken play in which the DB and the safety at Joe's had a miscommunication on a 4th and 15 that went for a 40-yard touchdown, man all by himself, which put St. Francis ahead. And at that point, they were able to now say what I'm trying to say Bergen should have done. Let's throw this playbook out. We are bigger than them. The coach said we outweighed them by 600 pounds up front. Lean on them. They have to break. So now the clock is on their side, and they got that big O-line. And that's what they did, and they won ugly. They wanted to win pretty, but they took an ugly win. And I felt like Bergen could have done the same thing against IMG, because their kids believed they were getting the yardage and make them stop it. And for me, that it was like the Paramus Catholic game. I loved seeing it. I hated to see the state take the L.
Right.
But what was guaranteed, what was so real that you can see about that game is after the game when the St. Francis kids threw their helmets up in the air like they won a Super Bowl. This is a team that was saying, yo, we need to get them up how so we can get up out of here.
Yeah, number
this
14
light work, right?
In the country, right?
Now they happy because they just make it out of there.
To win.
And St. Francis, they struggled last year, so they try and get back to where they were all these previous...
He brought in 10 transfers to fix that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So before that, right, there's articles saying that, even in their own conference, like, this isn't a game worth us watching, and these players are coming out looking like college-sized players, pro-sized players, and these articles are coming out. So people are thinking that Joe's has it's just, that's not happening.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt?
Yep.
I did this. I talked about Nate Bailey and all of that.
Okay,
go ahead.
And what I want to say is, with all of that, welcome to Big North football, Lamar Best, the quarterback, right, who came from Willingboro. We talked about him last year down there, and people might have thought like, he's going from public, and it's a different ball game. Now you're coming up here, and you got to show your card. Well, guess what? He showed welcome to the party. I feel like you already was at the party, but welcome to the party, the Big North party.
I'm gonna be honest. He wasn't at the party with me. I'm a you gotta show me guy, right? You know, my my partner Nas that sits in front, across from me, we used to bang heads for this all the time because I don't crown paper champions, right? I don't crown what we think you might do. You have to do it, right? And a lot of these people watch this show and they like, oh, I don't like about this and this about you. And I'm just like, once you do it, I give it to you. But until you do it, I'm not one of those guys that's about to, you know, crown you or give you a first place medal before you prove it. So let's talk about Lamar. He led the state in passing. Yes, he's an all-state player. He rushed for over 1,000 yards. I mean, this guy balled out down at Willingboro. Now, here's two things. We got the public school, right? Not public 5 or public 4. He's public 2. And it's a group 2 school at public at that. So, for me, I know the game speeds up from public to private and then from group 2 to group 4, group 5, whether you're public or private. And I needed to see if he can do that there. Now here's the twist in that. It speeds up from group 4. Make no mistake about it. St. Joe's shouldn't have been on the field with IMG in a talent aspect.
St.
You
Francis.
looked at St. Francis, man to man across the board. And as fast as it was, and that's what the coaching staff said, like, we couldn't simulate that speed via scrimmage or practice. That size and that speed, we couldn't simulate that. That's why that first drive looked the way it looked. So just to say, Lamar went from group 2 public school football to literally playing in what would be like group 8 or 10. And he stood in the pocket. You couldn't speed him up. He ran when he needed to. He dumped it off when he needed to.
And he hasn't been there. He hasn't been there long.
3 weeks.
He's been a late.
He had to learn the playbook.
Shout out to Coach, Offensive Coordinator Gary Nova for, you know, spending. I know they had to spend numerous of hours, you know, to get him comfortable with this, you know, with this offense for sure. So that says a lot.
And Nunzio Campanelli
lunging the ball.
Yeah, Nunzio Campanelli has said, you know, we know Lamar is a good quarterback up at Syracuse. We need to see if he can play big boy football. And he answered that yesterday. I'm interested to see what he does. And now this game's gonna slow down.
And like you said, you can't, you know, simulate that in practice and scout, you know. But St. Francis can.
Right.
All right.
Right.
They can.
IMG can. I know Bergen has, you know, some guy. Most Bergen players play one side, so it's always a good battle. But, you know, to have that type of competition all camp, and camp is the hardest, you know, part of the season, right, for any program, or any player. So then to be able to go up against, you know, get the lineup against a Power 5 guy every single day in practice, iron sharpens iron.
Absolutely.
Right? Only prepares you for sure. So I think, you know, even though these are technically, to me, these are not a loss for Bergen or for St. Joe's by definitely experience. And it also shows that we're not backing down from playing anyone on the national circuit. I would love to see, once DePaul play good council, so we can see how things shape out. Then we could start really, you know, before we go into week 2, you know, to start talking about, is Bergen and Joe's that true 1 and 2? Because like I said, some people got DePaul. DePaul has, but the people that got DePaul at 2 as well. So I just want to see what happens, because you have to play a national game to see where people are at for sure.
Absolutely. So I want to say again, LeVar Best, welcome to the party. DJ McClary from Snyder, right? He plays quarterback, running back, and middle linebacker. And at some point, they were maybe 1 touchdown down this Snyder and Hillside game, with Hillside winning. And DJ is just like going. So Mitch, they're on the 1-yard line, Hillside, and Mitch is ready to go in. And DJ, he kind of was a little shaky the play before, but he waves off his coaches like, nah, I'm good, right? And stays in the game and stops them from scoring. Then comes back in, they get turnover and down, and then goes down and scores, right? Okay, now they go. From what I hear, there's a phone call come out and Rucker say, take him out. So he gets taken out third quarter because he's playing so much and doing so much. His body is literally, he's leaving it all on the field. Hillside end up winning that game. But for that all, I want to give Mitch Jenkins, because no one really knows him that well. He could be top player of the week there with 13 carries and 170 and 4 touchdowns, and he can also be upcoming player. But I also want to shout out DJ McClary because he's doing what he does, and that was just amazing.
Yeah, that team doesn't go anywhere without that kid. I mean,
So do the same thing. Give us one of the top players you saw this week and your upcoming player.
DePaul running back, Sean Nevers, even though it was in the fourth quarter, I seen something that I like where, people like to call it garbage time or whatever. By any means, I don't believe in garbage time. I believe in seeing what I can see in the future when he gets his time to come. And he had about a 35-yard touchdown score. His first varsity touchdown. He's a sophomore. He got to wait his turn really after Nolan leaves. So that's my upcoming because everyone else that contributed this weekend.
What year is he?
He's 2027.
Okay.
So that's my upcoming guy. Now, as far as the guys that were supposed to, everyone else, the games I went to, like you go to IMG or Bergen Catholic game, the guys that we know are the only ones that's going to really touch the ball. So not a lot of upcoming guys yet. So maybe in the future, maybe in the, upcoming weeks or next week, I'm pretty sure more football, more games because everyone didn't open up, this week. But top players, I got 3, honestly.
No.
He don't gotta have.
You can break it down because what we
I'm gonna break it down.
Because we what we want. We just want to let the audience know what we want. We want you guys to go out of our 3 who should get the top player.
Okay,
so
I'm gonna choose one then. I'm gonna go with Elijah Burris. All right,
Okay.
Elijah Burris, 105 yards off of 4 catches. Right, 3 touchdowns. Right, all his touchdowns were while the game were super competitive. Right, where he hit that 3rd touchdown during the midpoint of the 3rd quarter, and that helped them started to separate when I think that gave them their 3rd touchdown within the quarter, but it was his 3rd touchdown overall in the game. So I'm gonna go with Elijah Burris as my player of the game, top player this week.
So for me, I was torn because I like to really scour the landscape. There was a few big games, so I was trying to pick, but initially I wanted to go with Philip Farmer from Del Barton because he had 235 yards and 3 TDs on 5 catches.
I know where you're going.
Yeah, but after examining it closer, I went with Xavier.
Yep, I knew.
He had 30 carries for 252 yards and 2 TDs. So he's my top player for this week. Upcoming players, I'm gonna go a little deeper into it, man.
I'm about to say you got to see some of the younger talent contribute.
So I got to see guys, get their first varsity snaps. Shout out to Jackson Vaughn. He had a little cup of coffee in the IMG game. But I watched Taj Gray, 6'3 and a half, 210-pound outside linebacker, freshman, 2028 for St. Joe's, play in that game against all Power 5 kids, and you didn't notice a difference. He had a sack, he had multiple rundowns, he had hurries, and I just think that this kid's future is bright. So book that.
Do you know his number just so everybody can
Number
watch?
17.
Okay.
Number 17. Go back to the film because a lot of people will know that he's a freshman.
Right.
So I was very impressed with Taj Gray.
He started?
No, he didn't start.
Okay.
But he played a lot. He didn't start though. They got older guys and you got to wait your turn.
No, and
but his athleticism can't be replicated. So in that type of game, as fast as it was going, they had to get him on the field. And he was in coverage. He was coming and you didn't notice no butterflies. He played like he was supposed to be on that field with those guys. And unless you was on that field to see how big and fast those guys was, you can't appreciate it.
So we could see him on the field more, and he should probably earn himself some more snaps in the future.
The young guys, you gotta learn. You gotta learn your craft.
Right? Most people saying the younger guys as
Can't
good
as
you gotta go with the young. You gotta go with the younger one. So I mean, at the end of the day, it's only the first game of the season.
Okay. All right. So what we want, again, is for you to comment who do you think out of our top players, and I'm going to say them again, Xavier Williams from PC, Elijah Burge from DePaul, and I went public with Mitch Jenkins. Respect. So we're going to let us know who do you think was the top player of the game. Go back, watch some of their clips, and shout them out in the comments.
And that's another episode of Keep It a Buck. Peace. Joe Campanelli has said, you know, we know Lamar is a good quarterback up at Syracuse. We need to see if he can play big boy football. And he answered that yesterday. I'm interested to see what he does. Now this game's gonna slow down.
And like you said, you can't simulate that in practice and scout, but St. Francis can.
Right.
All right.
Right.
They can. They can.
IMG can. I know Bergen has some guy. Most Bergen players play one side, so it's always a good battle. But to have that type of competition